Sound the alarms. Juan Soto's rolling. First pitch is next. And happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 30 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pyatt, and with me as always the four-seam fastball co-host, Will Sism. Buddy, happy Mother's Day, right? To all the moms out there, how you doing?
That's right, man. It's Mother's Day weekend. It's, I don't know. Mother's Day is a special day. I know my mom's a special lady, my grandma, my wife. It's just, I don't know. It's a special time of the year. And I tell you what, as it relates to baseball, it is really cool when I see the pink bats coming out for that one day a year. And
For sure.
I don't know. Mother's Day is awesome. Shout out to all the moms out there.
No doubt. No doubt. Couldn't do it without you. You guys are the best. Let's get rolling here, guys. Let's get rolling with where do we stand. We're going to take a look-see going into Week 7 at the standings. And I kind of feel like the season is starting to fall into form a little bit, Will. Let's start with that American League East, the gauntlet. That is the American League East. You got Tampa Bay. 30-11. They got to 30 wins before they got to 10 losses. That's pretty special. I mean, unbelievable. And any other year or division, they'd probably be up by 10 games. But the Baltimore Orioles are 3.5 behind them at 25-13. And then, oh, man, you know, it's first I've looked at this today. You got Toronto, New York, and Boston's back in the cellar, okay, after a couple pretty tough losses to St. Louis. So that's fun in the East. In the Central, you got Minnesota, only team over 500, 22-18, and then Cleveland kind of clawing back. They're tied with Detroit at 17-21. They're both 4 games back. Then you got the White Sox and Kansas City battling out for last place. Pretty exciting. Who's going to get the higher draft pick? Mm-hmm. And in the West, nothing's changed in the West, man. Still got Texas, L.A., Houston, Seattle, and Oakland. Texas still rolling at 24-15. Who could have saw that coming other than you and maybe all the moms of the Texas players?
That's right.
Takeaways from the American League, dude.
Golly, kind of just really more the same. I mean, the AL East, as impressive as I don't know. I'm just so impressed with every team in the AL East. I mean, even Boston, they're way better than I thought they would be, and despite quality rotation starters,
yeah.
Other than Chris Sale, who's actually showing some promise, he's actually looked really good his last couple of starts. Mm-hmm. And but man, despite just the rough pitching that Boston's gotten all year, they figured out ways to win.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they can hang in there. I mean, to be honest with you, if they were in any other division in baseball other than the AL East, I would actually probably give them a pretty good shot at least getting a wild card spot. But I just, man, with that pitching staff, I just don't know if they can hang in there in the East. But we'll see.
Sure.
But obviously Tampa's still playing well. Here's the thing about Tampa, though. I feel like, I don't know. I think that every major league organization understands how good the Rays organization is. But I think this year it's almost to another level.
Yeah.
And I feel like Tampa is now going to deal with getting everybody's best shot whenever they play somebody. And so we'll see if there's any adjustments there that they'll have to make as they progress through the schedule. But the AL East is just a gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that Tampa Bay thing. And I think that's fun to watch as a fan. But over 162 games, that's a grind.
It's tough.
Mentally, it can be pretty exhausting for the players. But, I'm still not going to bet against those guys. It is a lot of fun to me that you have a team like Baltimore and then even Toronto, who we've been waiting on them to do it. So, it's going to be entertaining all year, and that's about all you can hope for. Everywhere else, the Central – they're kind of staking their claim for, redoing divisions. Maybe doing it like in the NBA where we just do conference records. I don't know. That's pretty tough. And then the West, just like what we've been saying, that's a 4-team race, and you can't beat that. So that's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. National League. Let's go over to the National League East. The hot Atlanta Braves. My goodness gracious, 25-14. That's good enough for the best record in the National League. Saw him in person, up close and in person. That is the hat that I'm donning. If you're on the YouTube side of things, we watched them play my Red Sox, and I was like, might be a Braves fan. Gonna get this Atlanta hat and root for the Braves after that shellacking they put on Nick Pivetta, and it was dude. They come out, they punch in the mouth. So that was pretty exciting. We did split that, though. Go Sox. We did split that. In second place, in 19-19, you got Philly. Wow, how they've climbed since last week. I think they were in fourth place last week. I have a couple of skidding teams after them in New York, Miami, and then Washington. 16-22. I mean, if you put Washington in a bubble, that's a lot better than I think we thought they'd do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In the Central, another division leader change. You have Milwaukee at 21-17. A half game in front of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have, I think we were all, if we had money to put on it, we'd probably land. This is where we'd be. 1-9 in their last 10. And, they've had a pretty tough schedule. They had Baltimore and Toronto, so they ran into
Tampa.
And Tampa, that's exactly right. Yeah, they're the ones who kicked all this fun stuff off. So, they had to go through and play that AL East. And,
that's right.
That's going to be a string that everybody's going to have to deal with, and be fun to watch that progress throughout the season. They didn't take it well. They were in first place, best division in the National League, and that is no longer the case. Followed by the Cubs, Cincy, and St. Louis still holding it down in dead last. And then in the West, you got the Dodgers at 24-15. They're kind of big brothering San Diego once again. They're like, I don't care about your Soto or Tatis or Manny or Bogarts. We're just going to win with some guy named James Outman. So that's pretty exciting for them. Arizona in second, 21-18, and then it goes San Diego, a game under 500. I don't think any of us thought we'd be there. I don't know if you saw Bob Melvin's comments. He said, we're underperforming. So that's
think?
Yeah, that's a good call. See, you can always leave it to an experienced manager to have his finger on the pulse of the team.
Yeah.
And then you got San Diego and Colorado in fourth and fifth. National League, broad strokes, Will, what do you like?
As we've said all along, the Braves, I think, are the class of the East, maybe even the class of the National League. They probably are. Mm-hmm. Feels like the Braves are going to run away with the East, quite honestly. Still very, very concerned with the Mets. I don't know what's going on with the Mets, but it's not good, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So, again, we're still pretty early, but man, I just think the Braves look way better than the Mets, and the Mets are going to be in for a fight, man. Not only with the Phillies, but some other National League teams to try to get what looks to be a wild card berth. So it'll be fun to monitor how this works out over the course of the year. One more shout out to the Pirates. As you mentioned, I think we all probably saw this coming. Mm-hmm. If we're being real.
What is it? The carriage turned back into the pumpkin? Is that how that
goes? Right. So I don't know. It's just a cream rises to the top over the course of 162 games, and I think the Pirates are way, way better than they have been over the last few years, but they're just not quite there yet.
Sure.
Can they be a 500 ball club? Maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are able to finish around 500, I know they don't want to hear this, but I think it would be a really good building block for what maybe is to come over the next few seasons for them.
Yeah.
And then in the West, man, you're right. My Padres prediction for the beginning of the year is not looking great because I don't know, man. The Dodgers, even with some different names in that lineup, they're still the Dodgers. And, until somebody knocks them off the pedestal, at least in the NL West, it looks like they're not going to give that up very easily. And so to me, they clearly look like the best team in the West right now. I know that could change, but the Dodgers are rolling right now. They're playing really good baseball.
Yeah, Muncie's found it. He's still not hitting for average, but he's got his power stroke back. I think he's tied for the league lead in home runs.
Yeah.
Yep. And they don't even really have the one thing I would say, and and we'll probably talk about this later, but they're giving Evan Phillips. I think we've been on this for a long time. They're giving him the closing opportunities, so they're kind of piecing together the puzzle that is the back half of that bullpen. It's hard to replace a guy like Craig Kimbrell. Okay, Will, you know what I mean? That's what it's tough.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, yeah, I love that shout out. I wonder if there's good teams kind of rooting for them to fall off because there's some tradable pieces there. Maybe a McCutcheon to a playoff team, somebody who needs an outfielder, and then obviously Bednar is the one that everybody's going to be looking at. So something to keep an eye on. And what can you say about Atlanta? Will said before I hit record, 1 through 9, they have in their lineup 9 fantasy viable players, and they may be the only team you can really say that about. So pretty exciting stuff. Speaking of fantasy viable players, let's talk about Heat Check, our hottest players of the week, Will, and lead it off. I know you've been waiting a long time to say this gentleman's name.
Man, finally. I feel like I've been waiting. I don't know. This feels like forever. But it's been about a year and quarter-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
But Juan Soto is finally looking like himself again. As of going into today for this particular week, he's batting. He's got 8 hits and 14 official at bats. 1 home run. He actually hit another home run just this evening, so that's not accounted for in these stats. But came in today 8 for 14 with a homer, 5 doubles, 4 walks, only 1 strikeout this whole week, and that is the Juan Soto that I have been waiting for, and I know that a lot of Padres fans and a lot of Juan Soto fans have been waiting on for well over a year now. So hopefully this is a sign of a big breakout for him to kind of shed whatever has been going on this past year or so, and just get back to himself again, hitting with confidence, getting the shuffle going whenever he takes a pitch. Whenever you really see him start to, I don't want to say showboat, but whenever you see him start to do the shuffle and really have it looking like he's having a lot of fun out there, I think that's the key to his success. When you see him doing those things, I think he's feeling really good again.
Yeah. Oh, it's super exciting. I know for you, you've had him in this keeper league, and for about a year and some change, it's been tough, and the frustration's been there, and you just can't do anything with this guy. You can't drop him. Nope. You really can't trade him and get anything fair value in return. And it's interesting when you look at it. He's still not. He's pulling the ball way too much still, but it's almost like it doesn't matter. I think the biggest thing I've noticed is that high fastball hasn't been giving him as much trouble. He's been turning on it and launching those. So that's super exciting. And all is right with the world. I think if you're a San Diego fan, you can kind of look somewhere else to be like, okay, these are the issues. Maybe it's the back half of that pitching staff, but it's good that they have got their guy. And I think if he can keep it up, this will set him back on track for that $500-600 million payday. So
yeah, I agree.
Good. That's good for him. My guy, I actually have 2 guys. I wrote one guy down. Will kind of inspired me to go with more than one player. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go a pair of Red Sox. One's an ex-Red Sox, and wasn't he a Ray as well? Did I imagine that? I know he was a Yankee. Was Evaldi? Nathan Evaldi is the guy I'm going to go with. Was he ever on the Rays?
I don't. You're making me question myself now,
okay,
but I don't think he was. Dude, He started. Didn't he start with the Florida Marlins back in the day?
Okay, all right. Here's the deal. I am going to stall until I can pull this up because in my head, I know for a fact he was on the Yankees. Yeah. Now I'm like, was he on the Rays?
I thought it was the Marlins, they were the Florida Marlins back in the day before they became Miami, but I think that's where he got started.
That's it. Well, I'll tell you about while it's loading. I'll tell you about his not only just this week, but this start this week. And again, playing a middle school team in the Oakland Athletics. But 8.2 innings pitched, no earned runs, 12 Ks, 1 walk, 3 hits versus Oakland. That's pretty solid. And it's not only against Little League teams he's shoving. In his last 3 starts, oh man, I'm just so done with Oakland. In his last 3 starts, 25.2 innings pitched, no earned runs, 25 strikeouts, 3 walks, and the other 2 starts were against the Yankees and the LA Angels. So Nate Doggy Dog picking up the ace baton from DeGrom while he's away, and it's pretty exciting. It's a little depressing because his ERA was like 4.5 last year with the Red Sox. So that's tough for me.
Shout out, man. I picked him up about a week ago, and he has been money.
Yeah, he looks good, too. He looks nasty. And I was not incorrect. We were both right, okay? In 2012, he came up with the Dodgers and then got traded from the Dodgers to Miami in 2012. And then you have in 2018, he played the first half with the Rays and got traded to Boston. And then helped them take home that championship in 2018. So I was like...
See, I just erased that year from my memory, so that's what it was.
Well, that's the only thing I hang on to anymore, Will. My other guy, real quick shout out, it happened today, and Will talked about it. Chris Sale coming back into his own. It's been a weird couple years. Obviously, a couple years ago, we just talked about 2018. It was like every 5th day, it was a win for the Red Sox. They called it Sale Day, and you knew put up 1 or 2 runs, and that game's over. And then, got the big deal, $150 million over 5 in 2019, and then just got injured, like fluke stuff, arm stuff. Then he got in a bike accident. Then he came back, looked okay, took that comebacker off the pinky. And I'll never forget, he was just walking off. Probably felt fine, adrenaline, but his pinky was, like right angle. It was definitely a miss. So super happy for him to come back and look good. Kind of gave me the 2018 feels when I was watching that start today. And
let me ask you this. Do you think this is, because I know you watch a lot of the Red Sox, obviously. Do you feel like he's legitimately turned a corner to where this is hopefully what we're going to see more often than not throughout the season?
Yes. Okay, so I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it again. But playing a solid team lineup-wise in St. Louis. And the biggest thing is like if he can locate his breaking stuff, that slider, he throws it backdoor, he throws it, back foot to right-handed. If he can locate that, that's what he was missing.
Yeah.
Obviously he wasn't pinpoint with his fastball either when he was getting rocked, but he couldn't throw the slider for swinging strikes or just even putting it in the strike zone. So he looked sharp today. Listen, he has track record. I'm going to say yes. Optimistic Red Sox fan. I would still be nervous to start him. It'd be a very matchup based, and especially in head to head, like, how are you looking in whip and all those ratios?
Right.
But give him a couple more like this. Doesn't have to go 8 innings every time. 8 innings, 9 Ks today. I think so. That's really solid. But he's been off and on, but I'm hoping if he can stay healthy by the end of the year, I will feel much better about drafting this guy in the mid rounds next year.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed, and obviously you watch a lot more Red Sox than I do, but I try to watch a little bit of everybody throughout the major leagues. And one thing that I have noticed with Sale in the last 2 starts, because the start before today against St. Louis was against, I believe, Philly in Philadelphia, and I was watching that game, and his velocity had ticked up about 2 or 3 miles an hour. He was throwing. There were a few fastballs that he threw in the Philly game that hit 99, and I was like, oh, because whenever I'd watched him previously, it seemed like he was topping out around 95 or so, and. And I tell you what, when you get in the major leagues, when you go from mid-90s now to upper 90s, and then you have the slider, as you were talking about, that's always been his wipeout pitch, that makes a massive difference. So if that velocity is kind of here to stay, that I really do feel like we might be back onto something with Chris Sale.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about him in a second. Don't talk to Jay Flair about velo. So maybe it's just you kind of get what you get. But he has definitely today as well. I mean, he was bumping. I think his average fastball was 95 today, which is
That's
awesome. Because
Yep.
last year that was, like you said, that was kind of like where he was topping out. So
Yep.
that's pretty exciting. Let's move on, Will. Huh?
Yep.
What's on the grill with Will? Let's do a little cards rant, man. Right after we recorded last week, some news broke that I was just like, this is typical weekly podcast timing where we can't go back in and talk about it. So it's been a little bit. Cardinals said they're not going to play Wilson Contreras behind the plate because their pitchers don't like pitching to him, and that's what they attribute these atrocious ERAs to. What do you got on this, man? It's unbelievable.
It really is, man. The I don't know, like I don't know how you feel on this. I'm curious to kind of know your thoughts.
Bad. Oh, I got a whole nother sheet of paper dedicated to it.
So here's kind of my thing. Like up until this year, when I think of the Cardinals organization, and you compare not just in Major League Baseball, but you talk about all sports franchises in MLB, NFL, NHL, NBA. I think of the Cardinals as being one of the most well-run organizations, seemingly, obviously from the outside looking in, that's around, especially in Major League Baseball. And this past week, it's almost like somebody's punking us. It's like, all right, is this really what's going on with the Cardinals? Yeah. This isn't like the A's or the Nationals or some other team that we don't think nearly as high of. And my biggest question as it relates to the Wilson Contreras thing is, why did this come out when it did? Because somebody leaked the information to get it out to the media. And my big thing is Wilson Contreras is locked up for the next 5 years. So it's like we're basically 1 month into a 5-year deal. And here's the problem. Even if all of this stuff is true that they're essentially alleging or talking about or whatnot, why would you let it out? Because even if you try to trade him, you're going to get pennies on the dollar at this point because the other organizations now know kind of how you feel about him as their catcher. Yeah. And my second question is instead of letting this out, and if their pitchers truly are this frustrated with him, why not let the pitchers just call their own pitches with PitchCom now? That's what Shohei Ohtani does.
Lots of people are doing it. Lots. Yes. Okay.
So like just to finish up what I was going to say, I just don't understand. I just feel like before it had to get out to everybody, they could have handled this in-house and not just made this just a PR fiasco for not only Wilson Contreras but the Cardinals organization. The Cardinals franchise right now is in complete disarray.
Yeah, okay. So, couple things. This is not even the first time something's broke out of that clubhouse this year. The whole Tyler O'Neill rounding third base thing, he was put on blast by Marmol. I think he's got to go. I don't think it's going to happen because I don't know if you remember this, but Mike Schilt, the manager for the Cardinals before Marmol came in, and Marmol had been in the organization for a while, but he was essentially pushed out by the leaders on the Cardinals. I don't know if you remember this. He won National League Manager of the Year, okay? And then he gets let go. What? I think we're looking at a case where the players have a little bit too much hand in this locker room. Fast forward to 2023. We have the Tyler O'Neill thing. I can't believe that this is why? And Tyler O'Neill said this. Why are we talking about this in the media? He could have pulled me into his office, could have benched me the next day. Don't don't put me on blast in front of everybody to set an example. Like, I'm a big believer.
Correct.
I've been here. I have a track record. Now to this fiasco. Okay, defensive metrics for catchers. Yachty's here. Yachty's up high for people audio only. Then you got Contreras down here. There's obviously a gap. They're not the same. But Contreras, compared to everybody else in Major League Baseball, he is average to above average. I think they're making him the scapegoat. This is your new $87 million man. You brought him in. They didn't make any bones about it, to be a catcher, to fill the shoes from Molina. Obviously, he's not going to handle the staff like Molina did.
Right.
I think it's unbelievable. They come out and they say, we're going to put him in the outfield. This team has 5 outfielders. They sent down the number 1 prospect in their team, their organization. It was escaping me, Will, because they have too many outfielders. You're going to put them in the outfield? Then they said, no, we're just going to put them in DH. Okay, so then what are you going to do with Nolan Gorman, who's been absolutely raking? They need to talk less. They need to say less until they have a plan. Now, I think Jay Flair came out and said that stuff that he said about it was said out of frustration. This just broke a couple hours ago. And that he's looking forward to Wilson catching him again. The whole thing stinks, man. I think Marmol has got to go, or he needs to get a handle on that clubhouse and understand that he's the manager. That's not just because you have great players. This can happen if you don't do your job. You know, you have to manage 26 big league egos, and they have a lot of studs. They do. But let me throw some pitcher stuff out at you. Okay, here's our rotation. You got Jay Flair, Montgomery, Matz, Michaelis, Wainwright. We've talked about this before. None of those excite us. Let me throw some ERAs your way, okay? Flaherty, 6.18 ERA, 1.73 WHIP. Montgomery, he's 2-5 with a 4.11 and a 1.3 WHIP. Steven Matz, 0-4. Should have lost again today, but was gifted a no decision. 5.70 ERA, 1.6 WHIP. Michaelis, 5.4 ERA, 1.6 WHIP. And then, Wainwright came back, 1 start, 7.2 ERA. This is not all the catchers. But all of this is to say exactly what you just said. Have them do pitch comm. Have them call it. If you don't like how he's sequencing, I think it's insane. I was actually frustrated. I'm not even a Cardinals fan, but I just felt bad for the guy, man. Think about this real quick. And this last thing I said, we're going to move on because if you're on the YouTube side, it's hot in my room when I record. I got all these lights on, and my face is so red. I feel fine. My face is really red. So we're gonna touch on one thing. This kind of broke my heart because he was a Cub. They loved him at the deadline last year. He thought it was going to be traded. Remember this? And he stepped back and they cheered for him. The next day, thought it was going to be traded. Didn't get traded. Played out with the Cubs. Signed this deal with St. Louis. Goes back to Chicago and gets booed. Booed. I just couldn't believe it for the guy. I was like, this guy loves baseball, loved the Cubs, now wants to come in, has to fill these impossible Hall of Fame catcher shoes. I just feel bad for him. I think they're mistreating this guy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm just amazed that all of this stuff has come out. It's almost like the Cardinals don't know how to lose.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like they're having major adversity that's really unexpected probably to them, and it's like they're freaking out. And man, I don't know, man. I understand that nobody's Yachty, and I respect that. I think that just shows you how good Yachty or Molina was. But my gosh, I mean, pitchers, put your big boy pants on. Don't blame the catcher when you've got a freaking 4, 5, or 6 ERA. I mean, come on.
Yep.
You know? I just this Cardinals this train that is the St. Louis Cardinals is about to derail if it hasn't already, and they better get their act together quick or I mean, you talk about everybody in that organization that from the manager to maybe the front office, they're going to have to clean house.
Yeah.
If this doesn't show signs of turning around soon.
Yep. Last thing, 26th in ERA, 28th in WHIP, 22nd in base on balls per 9, 28th in home runs or hits per 9, 23rd in home runs per 9. Doesn't matter how good your offense is. It's just not going to cut it, you know. Good news is there's like 5 more months of the season. So let's turn it around, okay? And nobody's running away with the Central. So I'll end it on a positive note. Let's keep it a little negative, Will, and I'm sorry about this, man. Down go the Aces. Let's talk about it a little bit. For the Braves, Max Fried out for 2 months with forearm tightness. Kyle Wright down for even longer, he says, with a shoulder issue. That's for Atlanta. And then you got Tampa Bay. These are the top 2 teams in their respective leagues. You got Tampa Bay with Drew Rasmussen, who just cruised through the Yankees last night. 7 innings pitched against the Yankees and heads to the 60-day IL with a flexor strain in his back. They want him to avoid surgeries. Had Tommy John twice in the past, in college actually. So before he even threw a big league pitch. Not good, man, when you couple it with the springs and glass now of the situation. Which team do you think's in more trouble?
This is tough. I think to answer your question, I don't know that I would necessarily say that either one's in trouble, but I would say that the Rays are going to have a harder time overcoming some of these injuries, just because, number one, I think the AL East is even better than the NL East, and I also think that the Rays, how can I say this? I think that the Rays have enough pitching depth, but I feel like their lineup isn't quite as deep as the Braves that can help overcome maybe, I don't know, let's call it above average pitching.
Sure.
You know, in the back half of whatever the rotation ends up looking like. McClanahan's obviously going to be fine every 5th day. When Glasnow gets back, if he stays healthy, he's going to be fine. But how do the Rays kind of piece together that 3, 4, 5 spot? I have to believe Taj Bradley gets the call back up at some point soon, because you cannot convince me that he's not one of their 5 best starters now with these 2 injuries. But I don't know. Like, I will say this, though. If the Braves, and I'm knocking on wood right now, if the Braves somehow lost Spencer Strider now, though, everything changes.
Sure.
And I mean everything.
Yeah.
Because now you go from possibly one of the, if not the best rotation in the National League, 1 through 5, minimum top 3 rotation. If you lose Strider, you're now going to Charlie Morton as your number 1 and then having to rely on guys like Bryce Elder and some of their young guys that are just being brought up. And as talented as a lineup as they have, that's going to be very difficult. So a lot hinges right now for the Braves on that right arm of Spencer Strider.
Yeah, that's true. They're going to have to kind of pass the baton to him a little bit. I'm with you. I would probably say I'd be a little bit more worried about the Rays just because of that division.
Yeah.
But they're also the Rays. So they'll
figure it out.
There's a likelihood of like 100% they're going to trade for Rich Hill, and then he's going to start throwing 95 from the left side somehow, and he'll sign a 5-year contract somewhere else in the offseason and pitch till he's 100. They do this thing where they just find anybody. They might call us. They might call one of us, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm always ready. You better believe we went to that Braves game. You better believe I had my glove. You never know. You never know, Will. No, man. I'm with you. It's tough, and I think it really bums me out because this Rays team was looking like they were going to win 117 games. Like, let's just go for the record. Let's just see how long we can take this thing. But I mean, if you think about Glasnow getting healthy, you got Eflin, McClanahan, and Taj Bradley. You know, Rasmussen isn't done for the year. If he can come out, that's still a pretty solid. That's a really solid 5. And then take Taj out, put him in the bullpen. That's a solid 4 for a playoff rotation. So the bottom line, these guys have played so well to start the year. They've afforded themselves a little bit of a cushion. I just think the Braves have a little bit bigger one because they got like a Soroka in the minor leagues and stuff like that. So there's a couple guys I'm not thinking of. I don't know if Ian Anderson is still down there. I don't know.
He's actually hurt for the year. I think he's having elbow surgery.
This is no good, man. That guy looked like the truth a couple years ago
He
in
did.
2020, and it just has fallen off for that young man. Well, I hope it gets better for him. Okay, well, yeah, I like that though. Those two great teams. I think that would be a heck of a World Series matchup, man. I would love to see them go 7.
It'd be pretty awesome.
And no doubt about it. Hey, here's a team that's hanging around and is a little bit excited. We got the Angels of Anaheim, okay, and Ohtani. What do we think's going to happen there? I mean, we've made it 6 weeks in. They are comfortably above 500 in second place in the West. Deadline's going to come around. What do you think they'll do with that guy?
Man, that's the $600 million question, right?
No doubt, man.
Here's what I think, quite honestly. I think the Angels, the front office of the Angels, is probably in no man's land right now, because I think that in a perfect world, which we all know that we don't live in a perfect world, but in a perfect world, I think the Angels, if you hooked up a lie detector test to the front office staff of the Angels and said, all right, we're a month and a half into the season, what do you want to see as it relates to kind of Ohtani? And I think their answer, if they were being 100% truthful, would be, we either want to be totally out of it to where we basically have no chance of playoffs, or we want to be like rolling in first place, go for it, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of caught in the middle because they're chasing Texas. They've got Houston right on their heels, right with them. Seattle's not that far behind. And so it's not like you can just wave the white flag right now, because you're really, they're in tied for second place right now, or in second place. So it's not like you can just say, all right, we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in second place.
Yeah.
But if you're really be honest, do you really think the Angels are the best team in the AL West? I sure don't think so.
Yeah.
And so here's the problem. Like, you're caught in the middle. So here's what I think they're going to do. Unless they just start losing, I think they're going to hang on to him. I don't think anything's going to happen. And I think they're going to end up losing him in free agency. That's the absolute worst case scenario if you're an Angels fan. Like, you cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot get nothing for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you can't. That is GM malpractice if that happens.
Oh, he'll be the poster guy for 10 years of messing up the aim. I mean, think about this. The more I think about it, the more I feel like they have to make a trade. I mean, unless they are comfortably in a playoff spot, and they are not going to be in the American League with the way the East looks right now. I mean, obviously the landscape can change a little bit, but they're going to have some truth serum and look at themselves in the mirror and say, we have got to get, because what they'll get is an unbelievable package. Even for a half year, this guy, what they're trading for, and what I think a team will give up a big chunk of their farm system for, is the right to have exclusive negotiation hacks this guy. We're going to take our best shot, our best swing, and maybe keep him off of the free agent market. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think it'll just ultimately depend. I just really think that somebody, whatever team it is going to have to absolutely blow the Angels away with an offer, because I really believe that the Angels, especially if they're still in second or third place and at least feel like they have a shot, I think that they're going to, in order for them to consider moving him, I think they're going to have to get some major league, like, ready players. I don't think that I think that if teams just tried to offer him like their first, let's just say hypothetically, their top 5 prospects in whatever farm system, I don't think that's what they're looking for if they're still contending. I think they want like major league guys.
Yeah.
So
I could see a mix of both, kind of like Washington with Soto. You know.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is gonna be. Can you imagine like a week before the deadline? It is gonna be. Everybody's gonna be looking at their phone, hitting refresh on Twitter.
But here's another thing too, though. Like I wonder teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers, who know they have the deepest pockets, and the Mets maybe that know they have the deepest pockets of anybody in major leagues. I wonder if they don't necessarily put some crazy offer for a trade mid-season because they know that they have a very good shot of signing him in the offseason as a free agent and not having to give up, their farm system basically for him. Yeah. And so I'm just fascinated to see how this ends up playing out.
Dude, there's a lot of lanes. I mean, think if he stays with the Angels and then gets hurt, and then they can't have him as a piece to help him contend. That would be a travesty. That's why I'm saying if someone trades for them, I would put a sizable amount of money, whichever team, if he does get traded, they're gonna make the strongest pitch to sign this guy because if not, it's almost worse than what the Angels would do if they got him for nothing. I mean, you'd mortgage a lot of your future as a franchise and not get Shohei for more than 3 months. I mean, there's no way. That would be your ticket out of a job. So
okay, that's a great point. So does that maybe scare off a suitor or two if you know in the back of your mind? I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say it's the Padres, who we know is probably the most aggressive Major League Baseball team as it relates to signings and trades right now that there is.
Yeah.
Do the Padres, knowing that the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers in the offseason could throw $600 million at Shohei and sign him without giving away anything, do the Padres pause and be like, man, we'd love to have Shohei, but man, do we need to really give up the rest of our farm system knowing that it's not a guarantee that we're going to be able to sign him?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Dude, there's so much stuff. Here's the thing, man. These guys aren't millionaires. They're billionaires with a B. They're not used to – they got egos. They're not used to losing.
I know.
And, man, dude, it's going to be so much fun. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. It's going to be wild.
To sum it up, I know we're going to move on.
Yeah.
The Angels, though, come on, the Angels, you have to trade him. You have to trade him. You can't let him walk.
Yep. And it's got to be that's the thing. This isn't a guy where the other team's going to come back and say, well, it's only 6 months or only 3 months, only half a season. Like, they're going to get top dollar prospects. It's going to be unlike anything I've ever seen. I can't think anybody, even in history, he's one of a kind. He's one of a kind. Babe Ruth, the Red Sox traded him for like $10,000 in a movie theater or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't movies, Will. It was I guess you just call it a theater. I don't know. Moving on. Who's putting the fire out? We haven't done this one in a couple eps, Will, huh?
I love it.
Yeah, let's talk bullpen, guys. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff we talked about before and just kind of give you an update of where we landed. There's obviously, as the season goes on, people go down, people rise up, and so we're going to talk about it. Let's start with the Phillies. This was the one my main man, Will I Am, nailed with Jose Alvarado. And, of course, we trade in a 1-for-1, and his arm falls off the next day. So he's on the 15-day IL. And if you know the Phillies like we do, they have some really good candidates to replace him. Now, this is obviously going to be a short-term thing, but if you're in a roto league and you're needing some saves, these are guys you should go after, okay? Potentially. I want to talk to Will about it because everything I read says they're going to kind of do a little committee action. But let's talk about Craig Kimbrell. 4 saves and a 6.60 ERA. That's a bummer. And then you got Soto, Gregory Soto, famed Detroit Tiger legend. From the left side, he has no saves and a 4.24 ERA. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez, because naming him Anthony isn't cool enough, with no saves and a 4.41 ERA. Who do you think? Okay, if they're all sitting on waivers, which they're not, some of them are like Craig Kimbrell and Soto are both rostered pretty highly. But if they're all sitting on waivers, who are you grabbing?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first off, let's say this: it seems like, from what information at least I've seen, that it's going to be a pretty short IL stint for Alvarado. It doesn't seem like it's anything serious, at least from what I've read. So hopefully that's the case. But to answer your question, I think so. As much as it pains me to say this, I think Kimbrell is the guy who's going to get the save opportunities. So if you're purely looking for saves, I think Kimbrell is the guy, unfortunately. Cody, you know this. I am not at all a Kimbrell fan, given his last couple of years.
Yeah.
You signed me up all day long for Kimbrell back in the day, but he's not the same guy these last few years. So I wouldn't trust him. But if you need saves, I think he's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
But if you throw saves out of the equation, I actually like Gregory Soto. I think Gregory Soto has the best stuff in that bullpen out of those 3 guys now. He's a lefty, so with the Phillies going a committee approach, they're going to have him probably facing a lot of lefties, which is a really, really, really tough ask for a left-handed hitter against this guy. So, again, if you throw saves out of the equation and you're just pure looking at ERA, whip, strikeouts, he would be my guy out of those 3. Sir Anthony Dominguez going into the year I thought was their best reliever, but this year he hasn't quite been his normal self.
Yeah,
and
they caught lightning in a bottle with him in October. He has, because during the season last year he had a high 3s ERA, and then he's kind of peeled back to normal. I mean, he has not looked good. Walks a lot of people, which is he wasn't doing in the playoff run. I agree with you. I think. But just me personally, I'd probably go for Soto just because I think, we don't know how long Alvarado's going to be out. I'm hoping, obviously, it's the 15 days. We'll see. I don't think they know. It hadn't been long enough for them to tell. But I would say once Kimbrell blows it, Soto will be next in line because of what you said, because of the stuff. So I would roll with him. Let's talk about Will's favorite team and the best team in the American League. I like to say that as many times as I can. Makes Will happy. Tampa Bay Rays. That's it. Fairbanks went through the IL with a forearm injury at the beginning of last week. Eligible to return on Tuesday. Jason Adam has been excellent, keeping the chair warm while he's away. He's had 4 saves and a 1.35 ERA in that time. Are you nervous in a saves-only league? Are you dropping Adams if you picked him up and have Fairbanks on the IL, or do you think they're going to, kind of split saves? As a Rays fan,
it's a good question. I mean, if you look at kind of what how the Rays have operated over the years, I think as long as those 2 guys are healthy, I think Fairbanks is going to get the majority of saves, but Adam is still going to get chances.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. Fairbanks, I love him.
Yeah.
Trust me, I love him. I think he's incredible. But he gets hurt a lot. Yeah. And so if I had Jason Adam and I was in, let's say, a saves-only league, I would hold him for as long as I could because, again, as much as it pains me to say this, history shows that it's just a matter of time before Fairbanks might get hurt again. And we all know that Kevin Cash does like to go based on analytics, based on matchups. And so, and here's the thing, and here's probably what we really should be talking about. Jason Adam if he was on any other Major League Baseball team, with the exception of maybe a few,
Yeah.
he'd be their closer. I mean,
Oh,
this guy is legit.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I say all that to say, if I had Jason Adam,
Mhm.
I would hold him if at all possible. Just because I still think, even though Fairbanks might get the majority of chances, I think Adam is not going to hurt you in anything, and I think he will still get his share of saves opportunities.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I think it saves plus holds. It's just like an easy keep them on your team.
Absolutely.
Some leagues only have a couple RP spots. I think that gets a little bit more tricky. But it's kind of wild, man. Adam had the closer role for a good bit of the year last year while Fairbanks was hurt. He's not really going to hurt your ratios, which is good. He's got more saves than Fairbanks. He has 4. Fairbanks has 2. Fairbanks only pitched 7 innings, or 7.2. Hasn't given up any runs. 0.00 ERA. So that's pretty nasty. But how much can this guy stay on the field?
Yeah.
Dude, it's a tough. Because you're out there looking for saves, and if he's not giving you any, it's just something to keep an eye on. But I would struggle to drop Jason Adam, especially if, like I did, spent quite a bit of fab on him in one of my leagues. So in that case, obviously you hold and you just see how the dominoes fall. Will, I'm going to move him up the list a little bit because I feel like it's a little bit of a similar situation. So right along with me, brother, man, the Orioles. Felix Bautista, staying in the American League East, has been the man. A 1.50 ERA, 1.28 WHIP, and 9 saves, doing the dang thing. But some guy we'd never heard of before 6 weeks ago, Yennier Cano. I don't know how to say his name. Cano, last name Cano, didn't do steroids or play second base for the Yankees. Has a 0.00 ERA, a 0.16 whips, 22 strikeouts and no walks in 18.2 innings pitched. He's been untouchable. It's unbelievable. Bautista has a little bit of a track record of being wild. Are you picking this guy up? He's available in some leagues, saves only, on the off chance that Bautista falls off.
I mean, I guess for me, obviously we're talking about a saves only league.
Yeah.
For me, it would depend on if we have whatever other categories we have that count in your scoring. So, let's just say this. Pretty much any league that you have that you're playing in is going to have, for the pitching side of things, is going to have probably whip, ERA, strikeouts, I would say at minimum.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he can help you in all of them.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is one of the few guys that even if he didn't have any saves opportunities, let's just say Bautista got them all, which is probably unrealistic to even say, but let's just say that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still think Cano has at least some value, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, when you have a guy that's this much of an outlier in both ERA and WHIP, strikeouts, 0 walks, like that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
So would I, if he was available, would I go grab him? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then, I mean, knock on wood, because I love Felix Bautista, even on his wild days. I still love the guy.
Right.
I mean, knock on wood, if he were to get hurt,
Yeah.
I mean, Cano instantly becomes a minimum a top 5 reliever in the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would absolutely, if he was available, go grab him.
I'm with you, man. Yeah, and he's gotten the saves on the off days. Like if Bautista's gone back to back, they don't want to go 3 in a row, and he's converted all those. So he's showing he can do it. It's pretty exciting. Also, something to think about. Kind of weird thought, but maybe it's out there. Don't see it happening because they're super competitive, but they traded their closer last year to help their team. It's a far chance, and this is by no means me predicting this happening, but who knows? I'd keep an eye on him. I picked him up in all the leagues he was available in because we're always just an injury away, and of course we're not rooting for that. But he is it's always good to kind of have an eye on who's the backup for every team. So,
Yeah.
he's pretty solid. I'm gonna hit on
Dude,
next.
but let's talk about real quick though, like Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine if they had just a little bit? I hate to say, think about if they had a couple more of really reliable starters. I mean, literally, if they can somehow figure out a way to get past the 6th inning, dude, if they're ahead after 6 innings, you're not going to win. I mean, that back half of the bullpen, I mean, Batista is incredible.
Yeah.
And now that they have Cano plus a couple of their other guys, I mean, Baltimore, they are a scary team if they get some consistent starting pitching.
Yeah. I mean, there's some guys who have looked good, but for sure it's the offense right now really, really carrying that team. I don't know, man. What's the trade deadline going to look like this year? I mean, it's not going to be everybody's, executives. That's the quote I keep saying. Executives saying it's going to be a pretty boring trade deadline. So we'll see. I don't know if it's going to cost more, pretty penny, because there's less arms out there. I can't even really think. I haven't looked at it too much, but I can't really think of anybody off the dome who's going to be available.
I think that the White Sox are the team to watch. If the White Sox have a fire sale, and
it's a good call,
Lance Lynn doesn't really excite me right at this point, but
Giolito
Giolito, because he's actually in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken. Giolito, and what if they put a guy like Dylan Cease on the trading block? And I know Dylan Cease has really struggled this year, but he's got the makeup when you play this out to the postseason. If you're talking about really good teams, Dylan Cease can shut down any offense in the majors if he is on. And so I feel like the White Sox are the team that holds a lot of cards for the trade deadline.
All right, dude. And I know we got a bump, dude, because we are knocking on the hour part. We still got some stuff I want to talk about, but what about this? Michael Kopech to the Rays. He's winning the Cy Young. If we can get Michael Kopech, you're not excited, but I think they could do so. He's nasty. He just can't harness it. His whip is 1.6. I mean, he's got to figure out how to pitch. But he looked good at the beginning of last year. I mean, if they traded for him, now he needs to stay healthy, but he's just what the Rays ordered, man. He likes to go 5 innings, and it's not going to happen. But I was just
I think Giolito is a perfect fit for the Rays, quite honestly.
I mean, any of those guys. It's just like, what are we willing? Dude, that coupled with the Shohei thing is going to make the trade deadline. I mean, this is the second year or third year of the expanded wild card?
Yeah, I think it's actually going into the third this season. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like that, obviously, it's going to be less saturated because there's going to be more teams competing.
Right.
But people, looking at the market, there's going to be more teams, so the prices are going to go up. It's pretty wild. Let me hit on these other teams real quick. We have the Rockies, who have been rolling with Pierce Johnson. He's been okay. I think he's got 6 saves with a 4.40 ERA, 1.74 WHIP. That's a really stressful way to close out games. They are staying away from Daniel Bard. I don't want to speculate, so I won't. But with going off, with going to IL for anxiety reasons, they're probably just doing the best for him at this time. So I would probably hold if you're in a deep league and you don't know. I mean, because he's pitched fine. He's just not pitching in the 9th inning, so he's not going to give you those saves. But he's looked pretty good. Maybe they're working their way back towards that because Pierce is not doing anything to steal the job. Royals using Chapman in the 8th, Barlow in the 9th. Barlow's been scoreless in his last 7 appearances with a 14.1 K per 9. His ERA has dropped from 8.10 to 4.4. So go out and see if you can pick this guy up because people are going to look at that ERA and be like, bleh. And also you're playing for the Royals. So maybe you can, claw him away. He's looked pretty good. For the Angels, all their wildest dreams have come true. We've talked about the Angels a lot this episode. I like it, Will. Carlos Estevez has really taken that job. ERA of 0.96 and a 1.02 WHIP. He's got 9 saves. That is tops, like top 3 in the league, right? I don't think
That's
anybody
getting
has.
it done.
Do people have 10? I haven't looked since today.
I think
but
I know Bednar for the Pirates got off to a really good start.
yeah.
He's around, I think, 9 or 10, if I'm not mistaken, believe it or not.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
I know Clase, he hasn't been great by his standards this year, but he's got, I think, quite a few saves as well. But Estevez is way up there for sure. He's been awesome.
Yeah,
Much needed for the Angels, by the way, too.
Yeah, the way spring training was looking for that guy too. I was nervous for them, but they found something in that guy. So very excited for them. All right, I have been looking forward to this because it hasn't panned out well for me. But here we go. Roman Candle, Player of the Week. That's right, our guy who's gonna go off. We're gonna do a recap before our pick. We pick our new guys. This is our deal. We're gonna pick a guy we think's gonna do well, and then we're gonna keep score on who does the best. Now. Real quick last week, Will picked for Francisco Lindor. He went 5 for 22. That's a 227 average, 1 home run, 5 RBIs. When I saw that, I was feeling really confident. I was like, okay, we can do better than this. I picked Carlos Santana, okay, who I thought was a little bit of a steal. 2 for 15. That's a 133 average with no home runs and a single RBI. So there's going to be times where we have to debate this. This is not one of those times. So Will is on the board 1-0 in our Roman Candle Player of the Week. So let's go to Week 7. Let's get past Week 6. I don't want to talk about Week 6 anymore, Will. I have spotted you the lead. I'm very excited. I am curious to see if the players I pick just stink, because that seems to be what's happening in our home fantasy league right now. Okay, Week 7 picks. Tell me who you're rolling with.
So Week 7, I'm going with a guy, one of the better players on what we think is a really, really good team. He honestly hasn't gotten off to a great start this year. He's been really inconsistent, at least from my standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to Houston, and I'm going with Kyle Tucker. I think this is the point in the season to where Houston, if they've got that fifth gear that they've shown in the last, several years when they've been so good, I think this is the time to where you really need to start stepping on the gas if you're Houston, because the longer this season goes and Texas is ahead, or the Angels are hanging around, or Seattle gets really hot and they come up to the top of the AL West, the more confidence that these teams have in that, hey, maybe Houston isn't quite the same, Yeah. And so I think this is the time that if Houston's going to take hold of this division again, I think this is a key time for them to do that. And I think Kyle Tucker is, other than Altuve coming back, I think Kyle Tucker really needs to step up, be that consistent guy in the middle of that lineup, and be what we think he can be talent-wise. And so this coming up week, I think, is the launching pad moment for him. I think he has a big week, and we'll see how it goes.
I love that call. Obviously, consensus top 10 pick in fantasy this season. Had a tough week last week, right? Batted 190. Went 4 for 21. How many off weeks is this going to have? I love this pick for you. Makes me a little nervous. This is one of those things I don't want to go down too far in, okay? I want to stay competitive with you. I don't want this to get out of hand. I'm gonna go up a caliber of player. He hasn't played that well. In fact, this is a guy who's getting booed by his home fans, and it was well documented and well spoken about. Carlos Correa signed that 6-year, $200 million deal with the Twins. I read this the other day. He signed $900 million worth of free agent contracts. That's hard on anybody.
That's crazy.
$700 million of it didn't count, but I just thought that was funny. He has started off pretty rough, a 193 average, has had 5 bombs, 18 RBIs, but they have not gone as a offense. and he's a big reason why. He seems to have started to click a little bit, so he's the guy I'm gonna pick to click, and hopefully I can get on the board. Man, Will, what an episode, dude! This has been so much fun. How you feeling? Anything else you want to tell to the people?
Man, it has been. It feels like a jam-packed episode with a lot of really unique storylines that we're going to continue to talk about because the Cardinals situation is just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The Shohei Ohtani thing, that's honestly I think going to be the story of the summer, the rest of the spring going into the summer. Where are the Angels at in the standings? What the heck are they going to do with Ohtani is going to be, I feel like, the headline that dominates basically the game until we get to trade deadline time. So this has been great stuff. Man, I'm already looking forward to next week.
Dude, it's the best. Hey, reach out to us on Twitter at BTH_Cody and at Will Sism. We're also on YouTube. It'll be in the description below. And I figured out how to put comments on there. So let us know what you think. Any tips, any ideas, anything you want to hear us talk about. That would be great. Great week and great luck in week 7. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 30 of Bringing the Heat.